the one Buddhist thought that frees you from anxiety even after 60. It's not death that people fear most. It's reaching the end of life only to realize they never truly lived. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named James. He retired at 62 after working for over 35 years in government service. He thought retirement would bring peace, long walks, quiet mornings with coffee, time to travel. But within just a few months, James found himself waking up each morning with a knot in his stomach. It wasn't physical pain. It was something harder to describe. A restlessness, an unease, a quiet panic that whispered, "You don't matter anymore. James is not alone." In fact, millions of older adults silently carry the heavy weight of anxiety, and not the obvious kind. I'm talking about the subtle, creeping kind, the anxiety of feeling lost, invisible, or uncertain about what comes next. The unseen burden of growing older. Anxiety is often thought of as a young person's problem, college students facing exams, parents juggling kids and careers, but data shows a rising wave of late-life anxiety. According to a study from the National Institute of Mental Health, over 15% of adults over 60 experience significant symptoms of anxiety, yet over half never seek help. Why? Because older adults tend to suffer quietly. They're expected to be strong, wise, resilient, and admitting to fear or worry can feel like weakness. But here's the truth. Anxiety doesn't discriminate by age. In fact, in your 60s and beyond, it can hit harder. Why? Because the anchors you once leaned on, career, parenting, being needed, begin to shift or fade. You begin asking deeper questions. What's my purpose now? Who am I without the roles I used to play? What if I'm running out of time? What happens when I'm gone? And these questions, while natural, can open the door to anxiety, regret, and even despair if you don't have a deeper framework to hold them. When silence becomes a storm. For many, aging brings a kind of silent storm. You look calm on the outside, but inside, your mind keeps spinning. Will my health last? Am I a burden to my family? Have I wasted my life? These thoughts are not just background noise. They shape your energy. They disturb your sleep. They make joy feel distant. You try to hide it. You smile when the grandkids come. You say, "I'm fine," when friends ask. But in the quiet moments, when no one is around, the questions return. And that's where Buddhist wisdom offers something most modern medicine and motivational speeches do not. A root-level transformation of how you relate to anxiety itself. What if the problem isn't the anxiety, but our relationship to it? In the West, we've been taught to fight anxiety, to fix it, to numb it. But Buddhism invites us to do something radically different, to sit with it, to listen, and to see through it. Buddhist philosophy doesn't say anxiety is evil or shameful. It says it is impermanent, conditioned, a passing cloud in the vast sky of your awareness. And that shift, seeing anxiety as something that arises and passes rather than something you are, is the beginning of real freedom. Imagine if, instead of tensing up every time you feel nervous, you could say, here comes the worry. Hello, old friend. I see you, and I know you will pass. It's this subtle but powerful shift that allows many older Buddhists, and now thousands of everyday people across the globe, to live more peacefully than ever after 60. Why now is the perfect time to wake up? Let me be clear. Your age is not a problem. It's an invitation. Yes, the body may ache more. Yes, the future may seem shorter. But those are not curses, they're callings. Buddhism teaches that the second half of life is the ripening phase of the soul, a time to wake up to what matters most. You've seen life, you've lost, you've loved, and now the noise of the world quiets just enough for you to hear the voice within. That anxiety you feel? It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's a sacred signal, a bell of mindfulness, ringing in the temple of your heart saying, don't miss this moment. You are not alone, and you are not broken. There's a reason Buddhist monasteries around the world are filled with older people, not because they're trying to escape the world, but because they're ready to embrace it deeply, clearly, and peacefully. In fact, some of the most serene, wise, and joyful people I've ever met were in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s, not because life was easier for them, but because they had finally stopped running. They learned to breathe with the anxiety, to bow to it, to release it like an autumn leaf falling gently from the branch. And you can too. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. The Buddha, Dhammapada 277. There are moments in life when you hear something so simple, yet it hits you like a bell ringing in the quietest part of your heart. For me, and for millions who've walked the spiritual path, it was this one truth. This too shall pass. A phrase so gentle, yet powerful enough to calm storms inside the mind. A thought so ancient, yet eternally fresh. This is not just poetic comfort. It is the heartbeat of Buddhist wisdom. And for many, especially after 60, it becomes the light that guides them out of anxiety's darkest corners. What does it mean that everything passes? The Buddha's core teaching of impermanence, called anicca in Pali, reminds us that everything we experience is in constant motion. Your thoughts? They come and go like waves. Your body? Always changing, one breath at a time. Your emotions? Rising, falling, transforming. Nothing stays, nothing can stay, even the things that feel unbearable. Grief, loneliness, regret, anxiety, they too are temporary visitors. Sabbe sankhara anicca. All conditioned phenomena are impermanent. That includes your anxiety, yes, even your anxiety. A true story from panic to peace. Let me introduce you to Margaret. She's 68, a retired teacher from Oregon. After her husband passed away, she found herself spiraling into anxiety, especially at night. Her heart would race. Her mind would imagine the worst. She was afraid she would die alone. Then one day, while scrolling through videos on her iPad, she stumbled across a Buddhist monk speaking softly about impermanence. He said, if you can sit with a feeling for just one full breath without pushing it away or clinging to it, you begin to see it is not you, it is not forever. Margaret tried it that very night. The next time the fear rose, she didn't run. She breathed in, she breathed out, and she whispered to herself, this too shall pass. It didn't erase the pain overnight, but something shifted. The fear didn't control her anymore, because she saw it. A wave, not the ocean. A moment, not her identity. Why this thought is so powerful after 60. At this stage of life, we're no longer trying to conquer the world. We're trying to make peace with it. And yet, many people after 60 get caught in emotional time loops, replaying regrets, fears of death, or worry for their children and grandchildren. But the truth is, the mind loves to create problems that don't exist anymore, or don't exist yet. The thought, this too shall pass, becomes your anchor to the present. It reminds you the regret you feel about your past. It's not alive unless you feed it. The fear about the future. It's a story, not a certainty, the ache in your heart. It is tender, but it too will soften with time. Impermanence is not just about letting go of suffering. It's about trusting life's natural flow, how to practice this thought every day. Let's make this real. Let's talk about how you can use this thought today, right now, in the middle of an anxious moment. Step 1. Pause and name it. When anxiety arises, don't react. Just notice it. Ah, here is fear. Step 2. Breathe into it. Take one slow, deep breath. Then another. You're not escaping the anxiety. You're staying with it. Step 3. Whisper the truth. Say softly, either aloud or in your heart. This too shall pass. This is not permanent. Step 4. Watch it shift. Often, the moment you stop fighting your anxiety, it begins to soften. It might still be there, but your relationship to it changes. You are no longer its prisoner. Even the good things pass. And that's okay. Now, this teaching isn't just for the hard moments. It also applies to the beautiful ones. Your grandchild's laughter, a quiet walk with your partner, a sunset that paints the sky gold. These too are impermanent, but that's what makes them sacred. Buddhism doesn't teach detachment from life. It teaches deeper presence. When you know something won't last, you cherish it more fully. You hold it gently with gratitude instead of clinging with fear. Impermanence is the nature of life, and because of this, everything is possible. Thich Nhat Hanh, turning pain into wisdom. Let's be honest, sometimes impermanence is hard to accept. The people we love grow old or pass away. Our bodies change in ways we don't expect. Life moves on, and we feel left behind. But here's the hidden beauty. Impermanence also means pain doesn't last. It means every loss carries the seed of renewal. It means healing is not just possible, it's inevitable if you allow it. The Buddha didn't promise a life without suffering. He promised a way to understand suffering, and in doing so to liberate ourselves from it. And it begins by seeing, truly seeing, that no feeling is final. What you can begin to let go of today. Let me ask you gently, what are you holding on to right now that is already trying to pass? A resentment from years ago, a fear of being alone, a story that you're too old to begin again? What would happen if you allowed it to move through you instead of holding it hostage in your heart? The moment you embrace the truth of impermanence, you begin to live not with dread, but with freedom, not rushing, not resisting, just living, here, now, awake. Your emotions are not enemies. They are messengers bearing gifts, if you dare to listen. We often think of anxiety as something to fear, something to run from or fight against. But what if we've misunderstood it entirely? What if anxiety isn't here to hurt us, but to wake us up? This may sound strange, especially if anxiety has been your unwanted companion for years. But the Buddhist path invites us to turn toward our suffering, not to escape it. Because within that discomfort often lies the very wisdom we've been seeking. And so in this chapter, I want to invite you to shift your lens, to stop seeing anxiety as a curse, and begin seeing it as a messenger from your deeper self. The old view anxiety as an enemy. Let's begin by naming what many of us have been taught explicitly or implicitly about anxiety. That it's a weakness, that it's irrational, that it should be hidden or silenced, that it makes you less spiritual, or less grateful, or less in control. So what do? We suppress it, we distract ourselves from it. We take pills to numb it, or we drown it in overactivity, food, or even alcohol. But like a child ignored for too long, anxiety doesn't disappear. It just gets louder. Buddhist wisdom takes a radically different approach. A Buddhist reframe, what is this feeling trying to teach me? Imagine for a moment that your anxiety is not a threat, but a messenger, a sacred, sometimes trembling messenger knocking gently on the door of your consciousness. And instead of slamming the door or pretending you're not home, you open it. You sit down with it. You offer it tea, and you ask, what are you trying to show me? This is the heart of what Buddhism calls mindful inquiry. It's not about analysis or judgment. It's about gentle attention. It's about presence, curiosity, compassion. Let me give you some real-world examples of how this works. 3 stories, 1 message. John, 72. The fear of being forgotten. After retiring from a successful career in finance, John began feeling anxious every evening. He couldn't explain why. His health was fine, his kids called often. But he felt unsettled, almost useless. Instead of resisting the feeling, he sat quietly one day and asked his anxiety, "What are you trying to say?" And what came up was this: "I want to matter again." John's anxiety wasn't just random, it was a signal, a call to return to purpose. He started volunteering as a financial literacy coach at a local community center, and the anxiety, it didn't vanish overnight, but it softened because he was listening. Maria, 67, the ache of unresolved grief. Maria lost her sister 5 years ago. Everyone told her she was strong. But secretly, she felt waves of anxiety that came out of nowhere, especially around holidays. When she began practicing mindfulness, she stopped pushing the anxiety away and let herself feel it fully. And the message she heard: "You haven't grieved." When she allowed herself to cry, to speak openly about the loss, to write letters she never sent, the anxiety transformed. What was once pressure became release. The messenger had delivered its truth and was free to leave. Sam, 65. The worry. About time. Sam was anxious because he felt behind. Behind on writing a book he always wanted to write. Behind on traveling. Behind on self-growth. He thought he had missed his chance. Through meditation and journaling, he discovered the real message was not "you're late." It was "you still care." That anxiety, it was love in disguise. Passion trying to get his attention. Today, he writes 500 words every morning. Not to finish a book, but to feel alive again. The anatomy of a messenger. Here's what I want you to take from these stories. Anxiety is often the voice of your unmet needs, unloved parts, or unspoken truths. And just like a child who cries not to annoy you, but because they need something, your anxiety is calling for awareness, not judgment. The Buddhist monk Ajahn Chah once said, "You see the pain? Good. That means you're awake. Now stay. Let it show you." When we meet anxiety with mindful presence, we stop being victims of it and start becoming students of it. How to practice this reframe? Let me guide you through a 5-minute practice you can do whenever anxiety arises. 1. Stop. Don't rush to fix, just pause. This is the hardest part. We're conditioned to act, not to sit, but the power is in the pause. Toe. Name it softly. Say in your mind, "Ah, anxiety. I see you." This acknowledgement is like turning on the light in a dark room. Fear thrives in shadows. It dissolves in awareness. 3. Feel it in the body. Where is the anxiety sitting? Your chest, your throat, your belly? Just observe it. Like a scientist, no judgment. 4. Ask the golden question, "What are you trying to tell me?" Then be still. You don't need to force an answer. Sometimes the insight comes as a word, sometimes as an image, sometimes just a sense of clarity. 5. Thank the messenger. Even if the anxiety stays, you've changed your relationship with it. And that, my friend, changes everything, from resistance to revelation. We suffer more when we resist the emotion than from the emotion itself. The Buddhist master Pema Chodron said it best: "Nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to know." If anxiety keeps returning, it may not be because you're broken. It may be because something within you is ready to heal, but hasn't been heard yet. And when you stop treating anxiety as an intruder and start greeting it as a wise guest, it can reveal treasures buried in your very soul, the gift of later life. You know, many people spend their whole lives running from their feelings, but something sacred happens after 60. The noise quiets, the masks fall away. You finally have time, not just to do, but to feel. This stage of life is not a slow decline, it's a spiritual awakening. And anxiety, when seen clearly, becomes part of that sacred unfolding. So the next time it rises in you, don't push it away. Ask it to speak and listen. You may be surprised to find that anxiety isn't your enemy. It's your guide. We begin to age, not when we grow older, but when we begin to hold on. Buddhist saying, there's a popular idea in modern culture that aging is something to resist. Commercials promise us anti-aging creams. Fitness routines are sold as ways to stay young. We hear phrases like, 60 is the new 40. But let's pause and ask, why are we so afraid of simply being 60? In the West, we've spent so much energy trying to preserve youth that we've forgotten one thing. Aging is not a decline. It's an invitation to release, to unburden, to awaken. In Buddhist teachings, the later stages of life are considered a sacred time, not because the body becomes stronger, but because the ego becomes quieter and the spirit becomes ready. So what does that mean for anxiety? It means that your 60s and beyond aren't just another stage of life. They are a gateway, a chance to finally let go of the illusions that caused anxiety in the first place. Let's explore this more deeply. You're finally free from the race. When we're young, life feels like a race. Get the degree, land the job, build the family, save for retirement, keep up appearances, be someone. It's exhausting, and in that race, anxiety becomes a constant companion. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if I fall behind? But then something sacred happens after 60. The race slows down. For many, it even stops altogether. You retire, the kids grow up, the house grows quieter, the calendar becomes more spacious. And that's when many people say, why do I feel more anxious now? The answer may surprise you, because for the first time you're no longer distracted, and the soul is finally speaking, from clinging to clarity. One of the root causes of anxiety is clinging. Clinging to control, identity, outcomes, or even youth itself. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment. Clinging leads to fear. The one who lets go is free. In your 60s, you are presented with an opportunity most young people never get. The chance to finally let go. Let go of old grudges, outdated dreams, roles that no longer fit, expectations that never served you. These need to be more than who you already are. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means making space for peace. It means realizing I don't have to fix everything anymore. I don't have to prove anything anymore. I don't have to carry this weight anymore. That realization isn't just healing, it's liberating. The paradox of peace, less control, more freedom. So much of our anxiety stems from trying to control what we cannot control. The behavior of others, the outcome of situations, the passage of time, the inevitability of loss. But what if your 60s were the perfect time to stop tightening your grip and start opening your hands? In Zen Buddhism, there's a phrase that captures this beautifully: let go or be dragged. When you let go of trying to control life, you begin to float with it. You stop resisting the current and start flowing downstream, and in that surrender, peace is born, a story of letting go. Let me tell you about Peter. He was 66 when he realized he had spent decades trying to control everything: his career, his family, even his own emotions. After retiring, Peter expected peace. But what came was fear. He was afraid of stillness. He didn't know who he was without his job title. He worried that letting go meant becoming irrelevant. Then one day, sitting alone on his porch, he watched a single leaf fall from the old oak tree in his yard. It was effortless, graceful, silent, and Peter felt something crack open in him. He realized he didn't have to do anything to be whole. He just had to be. That evening he wrote in his journal, "I am no longer the man I was. And that's okay, because now I'm becoming the man I was always meant to be." From that moment on, Peter started living differently. He stopped managing every moment of his day. He let his adult children live their own lives. He stopped trying to be wise and just started being present. And the anxiety, it loosened. It softened. It no longer ruled him because he wasn't fighting change anymore. He was dancing with it, the spiritual power of aging. Buddhism teaches that impermanence, the fact that all things change, is not a tragedy. It's a pathway to awakening aging. Is your body's way of aligning with that truth. As the body softens, the ego softens. As the ego softens, clarity rises. You begin to see that you are not your past, that you are not your roles, that you are not even your thoughts. You are something much deeper, still, spacious, timeless. And when you live from that space, anxiety has no home to cling to. It may visit, but it doesn't stay, because the house is now filled with peace, a gentle meditation to practice letting go. Here's a short practice you can try, just 3 minutes a day. 1. Sit comfortably. Breathe gently. Place one hand on your heart. 2. Inhale softly and say to yourself, "I let go of what no longer serves me." 3. Exhale slowly and say, "I open to what is here now." Repeat for 3 minutes. No force, no judgment, just breath and softening. You were never meant to carry it all. Let me say something you may need to hear. It's okay to rest. It's okay to release. It's okay to be. You have carried so much in your life: responsibility, pain, people, expectations. But this chapter, this beautiful, sacred chapter, is not for carrying. It's for laying things down. It's for watching the sunset and not needing to capture it. It's for hearing your grandchild laugh and not needing to teach a lesson. It's for sipping tea slowly and realizing that this, right here, is enough. And when you allow yourself that kind of letting go, anxiety loses its grip, because there's nothing left to prove and nowhere else you need to be. You don't have to believe everything you think. Sylvia Boorstein, Buddhist teacher. What if I told you that most of your anxiety isn't caused by what's actually happening, but by what you're thinking about what's happening? Let that sink in. So many of us, especially after 60, find ourselves overwhelmed not by real danger, but by a storm of thoughts. What if I get sick? What if my money runs out? What if I become a burden? These thoughts come uninvited. They seem believable. They feel urgent. And then, without realizing it, you're caught. Your mood drops. Your heart races. Your chest tightens. But here's the secret Buddhist teaching that changes everything. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching the thoughts. And the moment you begin to observe your mind, rather than identifying with it, something sacred happens. You become free. The mind is a storyteller. Imagine your mind as a movie projector. It's constantly playing films, memories, imagined futures, worst-case scenarios, fantasies. Sometimes the movie is a light comedy. Sometimes it's a horror show. And when you're not aware, you become immersed in it. You forget it's just a movie. You believe it. Buddhism trains us to do something radical and empowering. Step out of the movie. Sit in the seat of awareness. Watch the screen. When you learn to observe your thoughts like passing clouds, they lose their power over you. You don't have to fight them. You don't have to fix them. You just have to see them clearly. And that clarity, that's liberation. A personal story. Linda's awakening. Linda was 70 when she began to feel overwhelmed by nightly anxiety. Her husband had passed, her kids lived across the country, and every night brought a wave of what-if thoughts. She tried sleeping pills. She tried distracting herself with TV, but one night she opened a book by Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh and read this line: "Feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor." That night, she tried something different. Instead of fighting her thoughts, she watched them. She said silently to herself, "Here comes fear. Now I see worry about my health. Now a memory from 20 years ago." She didn't argue. She didn't panic. She just noticed. And slowly, the storm passed. It wasn't magic. It was mindfulness, the practice of observing the mind. So how? Do you actually practice this? It's not complicated. In fact, it's so simple we often overlook it. But it requires consistency and a shift in attitude, from fighting your mind to witnessing it. Here's a basic practice you can begin today. A 5-step mindfulness practice for observing thoughts. 1. Find a quiet moment. Sit comfortably. You don't need a cushion or incense, just you and your breath. 2. Close your eyes, optional. Begin by noticing the breath. Don't change it, just notice, in and out. 3. Watch the thoughts arise. They will come. That's not a failure, that's the practice. When a thought comes, silently label it: worry, memory, judgment, fear. 4. Don't follow the thought, just name it. Think of yourself as a weather reporter. You're not changing the weather, you're just observing it. Clouds of anxiety moving through. 5. Return to the breath again and again. Return to the anchor of the present moment. Even 2 minutes of this a day can begin to retrain your mind. Why this practice is so powerful. After 60. In your earlier years, you were too busy to notice your thoughts. Life was loud, fast, demanding, but now there's space to notice, to feel, to see clearly. And here's what older students of Buddhism often discover: the longer you've lived, the deeper your awareness can go. You're not starting from scratch. You've already lived the lessons. Now you're ready to integrate them. Mindfulness isn't just about mental peace. It's about rediscovering your true self beneath the noise, and at this age, you've earned that clarity. What happens when you don't observe? When you don't observe your thoughts, you live inside their drama. A single worry spirals into hours of stress. A memory turns into guilt that steals your joy. A fleeting fear becomes a full-blown panic. You become trapped in a prison built by your own mind. But the key has been in your hand all along. Step back, see it, name it, let it pass. The prison door was never locked. A shift from I am to I see. Let's explore a powerful language shift. Instead of saying, I'm anxious, try, I see anxiety is present. Do you feel the difference? The first binds you. Second frees you. This is the shift from identification to observation, and this shift is where real peace begins. Your thoughts are not you. This might be the most healing truth you hear today. Your thoughts are not who you are. You are not your fears. You are not your regrets. You are not your stories. You are the awareness that holds them all. The Buddhists call this awareness the sky, and thoughts are just weather. Passing clouds. No matter how dark the cloud, the sky remains untouched. And you, dear listener, are the sky. A gentle challenge for the week. Here's your invitation. Every time anxiety shows up this week, don't fight it. Observe it, name it, watch it. You may want to journal your experience, even just 1 sentence per day. Today, I noticed thoughts about Untu. I didn't chase them, I just watched. You'll be amazed at how, over time, this simple practice creates a profound shift. You'll start noticing more peace, more clarity, more space, not because your life changed, but because your perspective did. Drink your tea slowly and reverently, as if it is the axis on which the world Earth revolves, slowly, evenly, without rushing toward the future. Thich Nhat Hanh, let me ask you something simple. Have you ever had a moment, a truly quiet moment, where you sipped tea, coffee, or just sat with the stillness of your surroundings, and everything just stopped? There were no to-do lists, no regrets from yesterday, no worries about tomorrow, just you and the now. Most people rush past moments like that, but the Buddhists don't. In fact, they live in those moments, and they teach us that in the heart of that simplicity, we find the deepest peace. In this chapter, we return to the ordinary. Because sometimes the antidote to anxiety isn't more effort or more ideas, it's less. The magic of mindful simplicity. There's a practice in Zen Buddhism known as tea meditation. It's exactly what it sounds like, drinking tea, but drinking it mindfully. You don't gulp it while scrolling through your phone. You don't sip it while watching the news. You sit with it. You feel the warmth of the cup. You notice the steam. You breathe in the aroma. You take one sip and feel it move through you, and suddenly you're here, not in the past, not in the future, but home, in the present moment. This is what Thich Nhat Hanh meant by a cup of tea philosophy. It's not about tea. It's about being fully alive in ordinary life. And when you start living this way, especially after 60, something miraculous happens. Anxiety begins to fade. Peace takes its place. Why simplicity is so healing after 60. In youth, we chase complexity. We believe happiness lives in ambition, status, or achievement. But as we age, our intuition deepens. We begin to suspect something profound. The things that matter most are not things at all. A warm meal with a friend, the sound of birds at dawn, the feel of sunlight on your face, the breath moving in and out. Buddhism doesn't promise eternal bliss. It offers something more real, the chance to awaken to what's already here, and the older you are, the more equipped you are to appreciate the beauty of what young eyes often miss. Story: Harold's return to the simple life. Harold was 75, a retired architect, widowed, and living alone in rural Vermont. After his wife passed, he fell into a deep loneliness. His thoughts haunted him, regrets, memories, fears of the future. He couldn't stop his racing mind. One day, during a grief support group, someone handed him a book of short teachings by a Buddhist monk. He didn't understand much, but one line struck him. Chop wood, carry water, drink tea, wash bowl, that is enough. That evening, Harold did something different. He made a simple pot of tea, sat by the window, and drank it in silence. Chitutu. World didn't change, but something in him did. He realized he didn't have to solve everything. He could just be with the moment, cup in hand, breath steady, heart open, and over time those quiet tea sessions became sacred. They weren't escapes from life. They were returns to it. Everyday mindfulness rituals to cultivate peace. You don't need to live in a monastery. You don't need to meditate for hours. You don't need incense or fancy robes. You only need presence. Here are 5 ordinary moments that can become sacred rituals. 1. Making tea or coffee. Use it as a ceremony. Don't rush. Pay attention to the water, the aroma, the first sip. Let it anchor you to now. 2. Washing the dishes. Feel the water, the movement of your hands, the sounds. Let it become a meditation. 3. Walking in nature. No headphones, no phone, just footsteps and breath. Let the trees be your temple. 4. Folding laundry. Instead of treating it as a chore, treat it as a gesture of care for yourself, your home, your life. 5. Sitting in silence. Set a timer for 3 minutes. No goal. Just sit, breathe. Let the world be as it is. These small practices rewire your nervous system, regulate your breathing, and quiet the mental noise. They remind you, you don't need to escape your life. You only need to enter it more fully, slowing down to feel again. In a culture obsessed with speed, slowing down can feel unnatural, especially if you were taught that rest is laziness or that productivity equals worth. But Buddhist wisdom flips that notion. Slowing down is sacred because when you slow down, you feel more. And when you feel more, you begin to heal what was buried under years of busyness and distraction. After 60, you've earned the right to go slow. Not to retreat, but to return to yourself, to your breath, to the present. It is not weakness. It is wisdom. Why anxiety can't survive in simplicity. Anxiety thrives on complexity. What if? What next? What does it mean? How do I fix this? But when you pour tea or fold a towel or walk beneath a tree, there's no room for what if. There is only this, and this is enough. A simple practice for every morning. Here's a morning ritual you can try. 1. Before checking your phone or reading the news, boil water. 2. Make a cup of tea or coffee slowly and silently. 3. Sit by a window or in your favorite chair. 4. Take 3 slow breaths. 5. Say silently, "This is my life. I don't need to rush through it." Start your day from presence, not panic, and watch how that presence grows. Peace is not a destination, it's a decision. You don't have to wait for life to be perfect to feel peace. You just have to choose to be present with it as it is. This is the essence of the cup of tea philosophy. Slow down. Be here. Let this moment be enough, because it is. When one person heals, it is as if a light is turned on in a dark room. That light naturally spreads to others. Jack Kornfield in Buddhism. The term Sangha means spiritual community, a group of people walking the path together, supporting one another in awakening, in healing, in living mindfully. You don't have to be in a temple to belong to a Sangha. You don't need robes or mantras or Sanskrit. All you need is a shared intention to wake up from suffering. In this chapter, I want to introduce you to a few ordinary people, each over 60, who discovered something extraordinary. They didn't escape anxiety through wealth or retirement, plans, or even therapy alone. They found a deeper peace by practicing what the Buddha taught: observe. Let go, return, be present. These are not celebrities, they're not monks, they're people just like you, with fears, doubts, aches, regrets. And yet, they walk through anxiety and into freedom. Their stories are your stories, and I hope they remind you you are never too old to find peace. Barbara, the widow who found her voice. Barbara lost her husband to cancer when she was 64. For 2 years, she lived in what she called a fog of silence. Her children were grown, the house was still. Her mornings, once filled with shared coffee and crossword puzzles, became heavy with dread. The anxiety hit hardest in the afternoons, a tightness in her chest, a spiral of what now? She was scared of being alone, scared of being forgotten. Then one day, she went to a mindfulness talk at her local library. The teacher, a soft-spoken woman in her 70s, said something simple. Don't try to escape the pain. Sit with it like you would with a dear friend who's grieving. Barbara went home that night and did just that. She lit a candle, sat on the edge of her bed, closed her eyes, and whispered, "I miss you, but I'm still here." She cried, a lot, but afterward, something shifted. The anxiety didn't vanish, but it stopped feeling like an enemy. Today, Barbara leads a weekly tea and meditation circle for widows. She still gets anxious sometimes, but now she knows what to do. I listen, I breathe, I speak kindly to myself, and the fear begins to soften. Malcolm spent 32 years in the fire department. He had seen trauma, chaos, and death up close. After retirement instead of peace, he felt haunted, nightmares, flashbacks, racing thoughts. His wife gently urged him to try meditation. At first he scoffed. "I thought sitting in silence was for soft people," he joked later. But one day, while walking through a park, he saw an older man meditating on a bench. He looked peaceful in a way Malcolm hadn't felt in years. Something in him said, "Try." He downloaded a guided meditation app and committed to 10 minutes a day. That first week, agony. His mind screamed, his legs itched, his memories roared. But then something beautiful happened around week 3. During a morning sit, he had this thought: "These memories, they're just echoes. I don't have to relive them. I can watch them, let them pass." He cried like he hadn't cried since childhood. That was 5 years ago. Malcolm is now 68. He teaches mindfulness to other retired first responders. His mantra: "You're not weak for feeling, you're brave for staying." Aiko grew up in Japan but spent most of her adult life in California. She lived through cultural dislocation, divorce, and decades of putting everyone else first. By 65, she had everything she was supposed to want: a home, grandchildren, financial stability, but her nights were filled with anxiety. "I didn't know who I was without someone to take care of," she said. Aiko joined a Buddhist sangha for seniors after seeing a flyer at a farmer's market. The first time she attended, she heard a phrase that would change her life: "You are not a role, you are a presence." For months, Aiko practiced just being, not fixing, not helping, just breathing. She sat under her plum tree each morning and watched the blossoms fall, whispering, "This moment is enough." Over time, her sense of self expanded. "I used to think I was just a grandmother. Now I know I am joy, I am stillness, I am alive." 3 people, different paths. But their breakthroughs came when they stopped trying to change the outer world and began changing how they related to their inner world. That's the essence of Buddhist practice. Not fixing the mind, not silencing the mind, but observing the mind. And remembering, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. And when you remember this, everything changes. The racing thoughts lose their grip. The fear softens. The tension melts. Because you are no longer inside the storm. You are watching it calmly from the shore. You may be wondering, can I really do this? Let me answer simply, yes. You can, no matter how many decades you've lived with anxiety, no matter how deep your fear, your grief, or your regret. Peace is possible. Because peace is not something you earn. It's something you allow, and once you begin, once you light that first candle, take that first breath, speak that first word of kindness to yourself, you begin writing a new story. Not a perfect one, but a peaceful one. A true one, a free one. You're not alone on this journey. Every person who watches this video, every elder sitting silently in meditation somewhere in the world, every person who chooses presence over panic, they are your sangha. You belong. You are supported. You are walking a sacred path, one mindful step at a time. To let go does not mean to get rid of. To let go means to let be. When we let be with compassion, things come and go on their own. Jack Kornfield. We grow up believing that love means holding on tightly, to people, to memories, to dreams, to certainty. But if you've lived long, enough, and I know you have, you've already learned the hard truth. Kids grow up, partners pass away, health shifts, relationships evolve, and life moves forward, no matter how tightly we try to grip it. So what does Buddhism offer us in the face of all this impermanence? A radical, liberating insight. And in that freedom, anxiety begins to dissolve, because what we fear losing the most is often what we're clinging to the hardest. Let's start by clearing up a common misunderstanding. It's not cold. It's not indifferent. It doesn't mean you stop loving, caring, or grieving. In fact, it means you love more fully, because your love is no longer tangled with fear or control. Non-attachment means you can love someone with all your heart. and still let them go when the time comes. You can enjoy life's beauty and not be destroyed when it changes. You can be in relationship and still be whole on your own. Non-attachment is not the absence of love. It's the purification of it. So much of our anxiety comes not from the events of life, but from our resistance to them. We say, "This must stay the same. They must not leave. I cannot let go. I need this to feel okay." And when life doesn't match that script, we suffer. Buddhism teaches us that clinging is the root of suffering. Not because wanting is bad, but because expecting things to stay the same is unrealistic. Life is a river, and when we try to freeze it, we drown. But when we let it flow, we float. Claraara was 72 when she finally let go of something she had carried. For over a decade, her daughter had moved across the country. They were close once, but the relationship had grown distant. Phone calls became rare. Claraara took it personally. Every week she waited by the phone. She replayed conversations. She worried endlessly. Did I do something wrong? Doesn't she love me anymore? Her anxiety was thick, constant, tied to her sense of worth. One day she attended a local meditation group. The teacher spoke on non-attachment and said this: "You can love someone without needing them to behave a certain way." That line struck Claraara deeply. She realized she had wrapped her daughter's love around her own identity. That week, she wrote a letter. Not to send, but to release. "I love you, I miss you, and I let you be. I choose peace," she cried, a lot. But it wasn't grief. It was relief. Today, Claraara still loves her daughter deeply. But the anxiety is gone. "I stopped needing her to call in order to feel whole," she said. Now when she calls, it's joy, not medicine. That's the power of non-attachment. You don't have to renounce the world. You don't need to leave your family or give away your belongings. You simply begin by noticing where you cling. Here are 5 gentle practices to bring non-attachment into your life. 1. Watch the mind. Say mine. Notice when you think, my partner, my home, my routine. Gently ask, is this thing really mine forever? If it changed or ended, would I still be whole? 2. Let go of outcome-based love. Next time you offer kindness, give without expectation. Love not to be loved back, but to feel your heart open. 3. Sit with change. Don't resist it. When change comes, and it will, breathe. Say to yourself, this, too, is part of life. You can feel sadness, just don't build a house there. 4. Practice letting things be imperfect. Your children may not visit. Your body may not behave. Your plans may fall apart. Can you meet all of that with compassion instead of control? 5. Remember the sky. Your thoughts and emotions are weather. You are the sky. When something feels overwhelming, say, this is a cloud. I am the sky, and let it pass. Non-attachment may sound like loss, but in reality, it brings a gift far greater. You stop fearing the end of everything and start loving everything more fully while it's here. You listen more deeply. You appreciate more quietly. You grieve with grace, not panic. You live each moment as a blessing, not a possession. This is what freedom feels like. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's soft and steady, like the breath, like the earth. Tonight, as you sit with yourself, tea in hand or lying in bed, ask gently, what am I holding on to that's holding on to me? Then breathe. You don't have to let go all at once. Just loosen the grip. Peace will enter through the space you make. In the stillness of the present moment, we meet the sacred that never left. Anonymous. There is a quiet truth that lives deep within the heart of every human being. We were never meant to live disconnected, not from ourselves, not from each other, not from the natural world that patiently surrounds us. But modern life, especially in the Western world, has slowly pulled us away from that connection. We've become distracted by devices, flooded with information, overstimulated and underrooted, and when we lose that connection, we begin to feel lost, adrift in a sea of thoughts, expectations and fears. But here's the good news. It's not too late to return, and you don't have to move to a monastery to do it. You can reconnect with what is sacred right where you are, in your body, in the trees outside your window, in your next breath, because the sacred isn't out there. It's always been here, waiting for you to come home. Anxiety pulls us into imaginary futures. Regret ties us to the past. But there is one place. Anxiety cannot breathe. The now. In Buddhism, the now is not just a time. It is a doorway into reality, unfiltered by thought, untainted by worry. Every breath, every bird song, every sunrise is whispering the same message. Come back. Come back to this moment. Come back to your body. Come back to life. As children, we were naturally present. A falling leaf could amaze us. A puddle could become an ocean. But somewhere along the way, bills, responsibilities, losses, we grew busy. And the world dimmed. But after 60, something beautiful becomes possible again. The return to awe. You have the time. You have the perspective. And now you have the wisdom to see clearly that life itself is miraculous. Not because it's perfect, but because it's here. Let me ask you, when was the last time you sat outside and watched the sky change color without rushing to do something? When was the last time you felt the ground beneath your feet and said, "Thank you"? You don't need a guru to tell you what is sacred. You already know. The sacred is the breath in your lungs, the warmth of sunlight on your aging hands, the soft laugh of a grandchild, the rhythm of your own heartbeat still going after all these years. In Buddhism, nature is not something to dominate or even escape into. It is a mirror of truth. Trees let go of their leaves without resistance. Rivers flow around obstacles. Seasons change without apology. Birds sing whether you listen or not. Nature is always teaching impermanence, patience, and presence. When you walk in the woods or even just sit under a tree in your backyard, you are not getting away. You are coming closer to yourself, to the present, to the sacred. Try this. Sit by a tree for 10 minutes without talking, scrolling, or judging. Just sit. You'll be surprised what you hear, not outside, but within. Let's bring it even closer. 2. Your breath. Your breath has been with you since the day you were born. It has carried you through joy, grief, panic, and peace. You've taken over 600 million breaths by the time you're 60. But how many of those breaths were you really there for? Your breath is the bridge between body and mind, between thought and presence, between distraction and the divine. When anxiety rises, return to your breath. Don't force it, just notice. In, I arrive. Out, I am home. Teach Nhat Hanh even. One mindful breath can pull you out of fear and into stillness. And when you string mindful breaths together, you begin to weave a new way of being. A common misconception is that sacredness must be solemn. That to be spiritual, we must be silent, serious and still. But the sacred is also laughter with a friend, dancing in your kitchen, hugging someone longer than usual, planting tomatoes, singing to your dog. Anything done with presence and heart is sacred when you slow down and give your attention to life. Life responds with wonder. Here's a practice I recommend, especially to those in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, the sacred walk. A walk not for exercise, but for reverence. Leave your phone behind. Walk slowly, slower than feels normal. Feel each step, hear each sound, see each color. Silently repeat with each step. Here. Now. Thank you. After 10 or 15 minutes, you may find yourself smiling without reason. That's not a coincidence. That's your nervous system relaxing. That's your spirit returning to the present. That's the sacred coming alive in you. Many people spend their entire lives searching for purpose, for peace, for God, for the answer. But in Buddhist wisdom, the great secret is this: what you're looking for is already here. It's in the wind, it's in the breath, it's in the silence between thoughts. You just have to notice. And the older you are, the more deeply you can notice. You've seen more sunsets, you've loved and lost, you've fallen and risen again. So when you stop and open to this moment, you're not just returning to peace, you're returning to yourself. May you walk slowly through the rest of your life. May your breath become your sanctuary. May nature remind you that you belong. And may you find the sacred not in the future, but in this very moment, right where you are. To live is to be willing to die again and again. From the unknown, we return to the now. And in the now, we finally rest. Jack Kornfield, take a deep breath. You've made it to the final chapter, not just of this video, but perhaps the beginning of a new chapter in your life. One that no longer runs from anxiety, but turns toward it. One that no longer fears the unknown, but embraces it as part of the great rhythm of existence. And here, in this final space together, I want to talk about something most people avoid. But in Buddhism, we don't run from it. We bow to it, we invite it in, that it is death, not as a grim thought, but as a gateway to freedom, to gratitude, to peace, because once you make peace with death, you become truly alive. There's a moment in life, usually after 60, when you start to hear a quieter rhythm beneath all the noise. It says, slow down, let go. Be here. This isn't weakness. This is wisdom awakening. In Buddhist cultures, the elders are not seen as past their prime. They are the guardians of presence, because only someone who has lived fully can understand how to let go gracefully. And when you do, you discover something astonishing. Peace is not the absence of death. It is the acceptance of it. There is a moment between the inhale and the exhale, a brief, quiet stillness. In Buddhism, this is called the sacred pause, and in many ways, the later years of life are exactly that, a pause from striving, from proving, from rushing, from accumulating. It's a sacred space where you can reflect, release, and rest. Not because your story is over, but because you've finally realized that peace doesn't come from the next thing, it comes from this moment. And this moment, and this one. In Buddhism, death is not a failure or an end. It's a natural part of the cycle, like the seasons, like the tide, like your breath. And it is nothing to fear. Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life. The Buddha, that spiritual life, it's not about religion or belief systems. It's about being present with what is, about letting go of control, about trusting in the flow of life and death as one. When we resist death, we resist life. But when we accept death, we open ourselves to every sacred second of being here. Helen was 88 when she passed away peacefully in her sleep. But in the final years of her life, she became known in her retirement community as the Smiling Lady. When asked why she was so joyful, even while facing health issues and the loss of many friends, she said, "I stopped holding on. That's the secret. I look at the sky each morning and say, if this is my last sunrise, what a beautiful way to go. And then I drink my tea and smile." Helen wasn't Buddhist, but she lived the practice. She had mastered the art of the sacred pause, and when death came, it didn't need to steal anything from her, because she had already given herself to life moment by moment. That's not just peaceful, that's free. What does it mean to die peacefully? It means having no unresolved wars in your heart, saying what needs to be said, forgiving yourself and others, being okay with what you didn't get to do, being deeply grateful for what you did. Peaceful Dying begins with peaceful living. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be fully present with the truth. This moment is enough. I am enough. Life has been enough. This is not a morbid practice. It's a liberating one. Once a week or whenever anxiety returns, try this. Sit comfortably, breathe deeply, place one hand on your heart. Silently say to yourself, "One day I will leave this world. But today I'm here. Today I will live with peace." Let the thought of death soften you, not harden you. Let it remind you what truly matters, because that's the gift it brings. Most people think of legacy in terms of accomplishments, buildings, or names carved in stone. But the greatest legacy is the peace you carry. It lives in the way you hold someone's hand, in the kindness you speak, in the stillness you embody. When your grandchildren remember you, it won't be for what you owned or achieved. They'll remember how they felt in your presence. That's sacred, that's lasting, that's love. Let's return to the thought that brought us here. This too shall pass. Not as a cliché, but as a profound truth that unlocks everything, your pain. It will pass, your fear. It will pass, your anxiety. It is already passing right now. Even your time on earth will pass. But what remains is the awareness, the peace, the love you gave while you were here, and that is eternal. So now, dear listener, dear friend, you've walked with me through 10 chapters of wisdom, practice, and presence. You faced anxiety not as an enemy, but as a doorway. You've sat with stillness. You've returned to your breath. You've remembered what is sacred, and now you stand not at an end, but at the threshold of a new way of being, one that is lighter, one that is truer, one that is deeply, quietly free. So take one more breath, smile softly, and whisper to yourself, "This life is beautiful, and I am ready to live it fully, one sacred moment at a time." If this message touched your heart, please share it with someone you love. Subscribe to this channel for more Buddhist wisdom, guided practices, and gentle reminders that it's never too late to come home to yourself. Leave a comment below. What part of this video resonated with you the most? Let's walk this journey together. One breath, one step, one moment at a time.